Senator Cayetano Alan, Senator Cayetano Pia, Senator De La Rosa, Senator Ejercito, Senator Escudero, Senator Estrada, Senator Gatchalian, Senator Go, Senator Hontiveros, Senator Lacson, Senator Lapid, Senator Ligarda, Senator Marcoleta, Senator Marcos, Senator Padilla, Senator Pangilinan, Senator Tulfo Irwin, Senator Tulfo Rafi, Senator Villanueva, Senator Villar Camil, Senator Villar Mark, Senator Subiri,
Yes.
Senate President Sonritter.
Yes. With 21 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstentions, Senate Bill 1823 is approved on third reading.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'd like to also thank our dear colleagues for supporting this measure. It's one step forward to achieving peace and in the Bangsamoro region. Mr. President, a lot of our members wish to give an explanation of their vote. May we recognize Senator Joel Villanueva, Mr. President, for the three
Senator.
measures they're
Senator
gonna give.
Joel Villanueva is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, Majority Leader. Mr. President, may I just explain briefly my explanation of vote on Senate Bill number 1823, Mr. President? We express our full support for the approval of the said measure, an act resetting the first regular elections in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, amending for the purpose Section 13, Article 16 of Republic Act number 11054, otherwise known as the Organic Law for the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. We would likewise commend the sponsor of this measure, our hardworking Majority Leader, Senator Mig Zubiri, for his steadfast leadership and commitment in advancing this very important reform, Mr. President. Ginoong Pangulo, tayo po ay sumusuporta sa isang prosesong sisiguraduhin na ang bawat boto ay tunay na mabibigyang halaga. Naniniwala din po tayo na ang demokrasya ay pinakamatatag kung ang mga pundasyon nito ay matibay at maayos na itatatag. Mr. President, democracy demands preparation. It requires clarity in representation and institutions that are fully equipped to carry out the will of the people. This measure is not about delaying democracy, rather it is about strengthening it. Let us view this reset as a commitment to genuine democracy, one where the people of BARM are able to participate fully, fairly, and confidently in choosing their leaders. Again, Mr. President, we vote yes to this measure. And Mr. President, on the other measure that we voted upon, Senate Bill number 1508, or DOH Hospital Bed Capacity and Service Capability Rationalization Act, we extend our gratitude to our good sponsor, the chairperson of the Committee on Health and Demography, Senator Risa Ontiveros, for ensuring the smooth passage of this timely and much needed measure. By authorizing DOH to determine, set, adjust, and approve the authorized bed capacities and corresponding service capabilities of hospitals under its supervision and control, we take a decisive step toward rationalizing our health system, meaningfully address persistent overcrowding, and strengthen the delivery of quality health services nationwide. Again, Mr. President, we vote yes on this particular measure, and may God bless us all. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
Majority
next
Leader.
to explain their explanation of, give an explanation of vote is nobody else. No one, our distinguished colleague, Mr. President, no one, our distinguished colleague, Senator Robin Hood Padilla, Mr. President.
Senator Robin Padilla is recognized.
Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo, at sa ating pinunong mayoriya. Ang una pong pagpapaliwanag ay kaugnay po sa Senate Bill number 315, Senate Resolution 315, na ang akin pong mungkahi, Ginoong Pangulo, kaugnay po ito, hinggil po sa paglilipat ng mga nahatulang bilanggo na aking kino-sponsor kahapon. Ako po ay bumoto ng yes with reservation. Ang aking reservasyon po ay dulot ng isang mungkahi para sa mas maingat at makatarungang pagpapatupad nito. Nauunawaan ko po na masusi ng napagdiskusyonan ang mga detalye ng kasunduan. At batid ko din po na bago magkaroon ng transfer, kinakailangan muna ng pahintulot o consent ng ililipat na bilanggo ng sentencing state o administering state. Kaugnay nito, nais kong imungkahi sa Department of Justice na sa mga pagkakataon ang nahatulang individual ay napatunayang nagkasala ng karumal-dumal o heinous crime, marapat ay pagdusahan muna niya ang kanyang sentensya ng ilang taon sa bansang nagpataw bago siya pahintulutang mailipat sa administering state. Ito po ay bunga ng aking karanasan sa Muntinlupa, sa Bilibid Prison, dahil marami po doon ng mga foreigner at meron din pong British doon na nakulong dati na pinatay niya yung kanyang kasintahan. At siya po ay nahatulan na makulong ng reclusion perpetua. Sana po ay bago siya pahintulutang mailipat doon sa kanyang bansa ay pagdusahan muna niya yung kanyang krimen doon sa minimum sentence. Huwag naman po kaagad na padadala doon. Alam naman po natin na masyadong ang kanilang kulungan doon sa bansang iyon ay masyadong komportable. Dahil Pilipina po, yung mga ganitong heinous crime, sana magdusa dito. At ganun din po, payag naman akong mailipat doon eh. Yung mga crime ay tinatawag namin sa loob na murder. Kung mga murder lang ang kaso, ibig sabihin yung umorder lang ng umorder, hindi nagbayad, pwede na ho yun ipadala doon. Sa ganitong paraan, ay mabibigyang diin ang paggalang ng soberenya ng sentencing state. Sa bigat ng krimeng ginawa at sa katarungang inaasahan ng mga biktima at ng kanilang mga pamilya. Kasabay nito, nananatiling bukas ang pinto para sa makataong konsiderasyon at rehabilitasyon sa ilalim ng administering state sa tamang panahon. Maraming salamat po. At ang pangalawang pagpapaliwanag po ay patungkol naman po sa Bangsamoro. Sa pagpapaliban at sa ngayon po ay itakda na ang botohan, ang eleksyon sa BARM. Ito po ay aking pong pinasasalamatan ang aming godfather, ang ating pong majority floor leader, Senator Mig Zubiri, sapagkat alam niyo po, kami po ay hanga sa kanya, ang kamusliman, ang inyong Bangsamoro ay hanga po sa kanya, bagamat hindi po siya isang Muslim, pero ang kanyang pagmamahal sa amin ay sobra-sobra po. At nung huli po niyang hearing ay nakita namin kung paano niya ipinaglaban na magkaroon po ng mga future leader sa Bangsamoro na hindi tradisyonal. Yung galing naman po talaga doon sa mga matatawag natin na galing po sa mga common na tao na mamuno. Kaya po, tanggapin niyo po ang aming pasasalamat, Senator Mig Zubiri. Kami po'y buong puso na nagpapasalamat sa pakikipaglaban niyo po para sa BARM. Mabuhay po kayo.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Maraming salamat din po kay Senator Joel Villanueva and of course, Senator Robin Hood Padilla. Aming adopted son ng Mindanao po yan, si Senator Robin Hood Padilla. And hopefully, may pasa din po itong panukala na to sa Kongreso ng third reading and may sa batas na po para kampante po ang ating mga kababayan sa BARM na magkakaroon na po ng halalan. Hindi na po ma-postpone at hindi na po mapagsamantala ang kanilang sitwasyon doon sa BARM. So thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, we have two groups. Of course, winners in the last Southeast Asian Games that we have approved already as resolutions. May I just ask for the indulgence of the body to suspend session so that we can allow them to receive also their copies of the resolutions that we had approved last month, Mr. President. So with that, I move to suspend session for just a minute.
All right, yes, hearing no objection, the session is suspended.
much.
Majority Leader.
If I may, just very short manifestation, we'd like...
Senator Villanueva, yes, what is your
Thank you,
pleasure?
Mr. President. I just wanted to put into the records of this August Chamber the names of our guests today. The boxing team po natin, Ginoong Pangulo, yung isa sa mga naghakot ng pinakamaraming medalya para sa Pilipinas. Nag-uwi po sila ng kabuuang 10 medalya. Gold kay Yumir Marcial, 3 silver kay J. Brian Baricuatro, Flint Hara at Ira Villegas, at yung 6 na bronze po, nandito po si Ashley Fajardo, John Mindoro, Ofelia Magno, Riza Pasuit, Nesty Petesio at Hergie Bakyadan. At yung pong women's beach volleyball naman natin, Ginoong Pangulo, the Philippines victory was made possible by the formidable team of Bernadette Pons, Dij Rodriguez, Sunny Villapando, and of course, Cici Rondina and Henesa S. Lapor. They ended, Mr. President, yung Thailand's 22-year reign and 8-time champion streak. Kaya we congratulate them and we thank our colleagues, especially our Senate President, for commending the efforts of our valiant athletes. Maraming salamat, Ginoong Pangulo.
Of course, thank you. Thank you, Senator Villanueva. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, may we recognize our distinguished colleague, Senator Erwin Tulfo, for a brief manifestation.
Yes, Senator Erwin Tulfo is recognized.
Just a quick manifestation, Mr. President. I'd like to thank my colleagues in supporting the concurrence of the Treaty on the Transfer of Sentenced Persons between the Philippines and the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland under Committee Report number 30, proposed resolution number 315. This treaty will allow Filipinos convicted of crimes in the UK to serve their remaining sentence in the Philippines and will facilitate their effective rehabilitation as they will be close to their families and friends and be with other inmates with whom they share the same language and culture. We will continue championing for treaties that will benefit our kababayans, Mr. President. Again, I express my gratitude to my colleagues in supporting this treaty. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Floor Leader.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move to... one second, Mr. President. Are you ready? Is that for all, is it? I move that we take up bills for amendments. Mr. President, I move that we consider Senate Bill number 1822 under Committee Report number 28. I so move, Mr. President.
Not that I want it approved, but are you moving for the reference of business for later? I don't mind.
Well, we can make the secretary work a bit today, Mr. President. So I withdraw my motion and I move for the reference of business, Mr. President.
Okay, so that we can proceed with the agenda. All right, the reference of business, the secretary will proceed.
PS on first reading. Senate Bill number 1909, anak promoting citizen-based crowdfunding for election campaigns and strengthening democratic campaign finance by Senator Aquino.
Referred to the Committee on Electoral Reforms.
1911, anak providing for comprehensive nursing law towards a quality healthcare system and promoting funds for a reading for a purpose of paragraph number 9170, otherwise known as the Philippine Nurse Act of 2002 by Senator De La Rosa.
To the Committees on Civil Service, Health, and Finance.
1912, anak strengthening Philippine disaster risk financing, utilizing Philippine disaster risk financing and insurance strategy for public infrastructure assets and operating funds for by Senator Zubiri.
To the Committees on Finance, Public Works, and Ways and Means.
1913, anak establishing a presidential merit scholarship program providing funds for and for the purposes by Senator Zubiri.
To the Committees on Higher Education and Finance.
1914, anak providing for a Magna Carta for information and communication technology professionals in government by Senator Villanueva.
To the Committees on Civil Service, Science and Technology, Ways and Means, and Finance.
1915, anak rationalizing the benefits for the chairperson, commissioners, and labor arbiters of the National Labor Relations Commission, amending for the purpose of President Decree number 442 for the Labor Code of the Philippines as amended, paragraph number 910 as amended by Senator Villanueva, Villar M.
To the Committee on Labor and Finance.
1916, anak reducing the rate of value-added tax from 12% to 10% amending for the purpose sections 106, 107, and 108 of the National Internal Revenue Code 1997 as amended by Senator Villar M.
To the Committee on Ways and Means.
1918, an act amending the public number 11900, entitled an act regulating the importation, manufacture, sale, packaging, distribution, use, and communication on vaporized nicotine and non-nicotine products and novel tobacco products by Senator Padilla.
Referred to the Committees on Health and Trade.
Committee reports. Committee report number 37, prepared and submitted by the Committee on Migrant Workers on Senate Bill number 1910 by Senators Tulfo R., De La Rosa, Legarda, Estrada, Villar M., Tulfo E., and Villanueva as authors for titled, an act providing for free financial education to overseas Filipino workers and their families. Recommending approval, institution of Senate Bills number 90, 208, 806, 848, and 1270 by Senator Tulfo R.
To the calendar for ordinary business.
Committee report number 38, prepared and submitted jointly by the Committees on Banks, Financial Institutions, and Currencies, Migrant Workers, and Ways and Means on Senate Bill number 1917 with Senators Villar C., Estrada, Tulfo R., and Villanueva as authors therefore titled, an act providing for protection of the remittances of overseas Filipino workers. Recommending approval of substitution numbers 181, 1074, and 1439 by Senator Villanueva.
To the calendar for ordinary business. Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, we'd just like to also recognize a guest of Senator Padilla in the gallery, Councilor Dr. Ted Padilla Evangelista of Quinapawan City, Mr. President.
Okay,
Mr. President,
welcome.
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I move to resume consideration of Senate Bill number 1822 under Committee Report number 28. This is the bill on the National Plan of Action for Care, Support, and Inclusion of Persons with Autism and Spectrum Disorder. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration of 1822 is in order.
Mr. President, to sponsor the measure, the sponsor rather may recognize Senator Risa Ontiveros and to propose amendments, Senator Win Gatchalian. If Senator Win is not here,
So the parliamentary status is that we're in the period
of amendments, Mr.
amendments. All right.
and I believe
Senator.
some of our colleagues who propose to amend have already the list given to Senator Risa. So let's just recognize Senator Ontiveros, Mr. President.
Senator Risa Ontiveros is recognized.
Salamat po, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, just briefly bago ko po ihain yung mga panukalang amyenda. The amendments before us today refine and strengthen Senate Bill number 1822, the National Autism Care, Support, and Inclusion Act. These proposed changes do not alter the heart of the measure. They deepen it. We align the bill with the Sustainable Development Goals to ensure that our commitments to persons with autism is not only compassionate but sustainable and measurable. We modernize definitions to reflect both science and dignity, recognizing neurodiversity, universal design, and the right of individuals on the autism spectrum to self-identify without hierarchy or stigma. We strengthen the National Plan of Action by requiring measurable targets, baseline service packages, geographic equity, and annual reporting to Congress because inclusion must be accountable. We institutionalize coordination, not only among agencies, but with researchers, professional organizations, civil society, autism self-advocates, and families, ensuring that policymaking is evidence-based and participatory. We reinforce our health system by addressing workforce gaps, expanding PhilHealth coverage, integrating gender-responsive diagnostics, and establishing integrated referral networks. And we strengthen inclusion in education, employment, and community life through concrete mechanisms, not merely aspirational language. Mr. President, I would also like to sincerely thank Senators Pia Cayetano, Sherwin Gatchalian, Joel Villanueva, and Lauren Legarda for their thoughtful and substantive amendments, which have enriched this measure and made it more responsive, more accountable, and more inclusive. Likewise, we recognize the invaluable insights of autism self-advocates, parents groups, professionals, and civil society organizations whose lived experiences and expertise continue to guide us in crafting a law that truly reflects their realities. In sum, these amendments transform the bill from a statement of intent into a structured, measurable, and rights-based national framework. I respectfully submit these amendments for the consideration and support of this chamber. Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, yes, Mr. President.
Yes, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. In Section 2, Declaration of Policy, and this is from Senators Joel Villanueva and Pia Cayetano. On page 1, line 9, after the word screening, comma, insert the word diagnosis, comma.
You're amending line 9
Line 9, Mr.
after
President.
screening on line 8.
Sorry, Mr. President. Yes, I stand corrected, Mr. President. After the word screening on line 8.
On line 8, correct.
Yes, Mr. President. Insert the word diagnosis, comma. On the same page and line, after the word timely, insert the phrase and evidence-based. I so move, Mr. President.
Evidence-based. Anyway, any objection? Hearing none, amendments adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. On page 1, still, line 10, after the word families, insert the following. In accordance with the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, for good health, quality education, decent work, and reduced inequalities. These policies, programs, and services shall contribute to sustainable development by building inclusive societies that leave no one behind, ensuring long-term equity, empowerment, and advancement for persons with ASD. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. In Section 3, definition of terms from this representation, on page 2, delete lines 6 to 10 and replace with the following.
6 to 10.
Yes, Mr. President. And replace with the following. A, autism or autism spectrum disorder, ASD, refers to a neurodevelopmental condition characterized by persistent differences in social communication and interaction, and restricted or repetitive patterns of behavior, interests, or activities as recognized in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, DSM, and the World Health Organization International Classification of Diseases, ICD-11, where autism spectrum disorder is classified under neurodevelopmental disorders. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, the amendment's adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the same page, line 11, after the abbreviation ASD, insert the following. References in this act to persons with autism spectrum disorder, or autistic persons shall be understood as equivalent and non-hierarchical, and shall not be construed to diminish the dignity, identity, or self-identification of individuals on the autism spectrum. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the same page, between lines 21 and 22, insert a new subsection EF to read as follows. E, neurodivergent refers to individuals whose neurological development or functioning differs from what is typically expected, including but not limited to persons with autism spectrum disorder and other neurodevelopmental conditions recognized in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, DSM, or the World Health Organization International Classification of Diseases, ICD-11, for purposes of determining appropriate supports and reasonable accommodations under this act. I so move, Mr. President.
This forms part of Section 3.
It forms part of Section 3, Mr.
All right,
President.
any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Letter F, universal
Still
design.
on Section 3.
Yes,
Letter F, all right.
also of Section 3, Mr.
Go ahead.
President. Universal design refers to the design of products, environments, programs, and services to be usable by all people, to the greatest extent possible, without the need for adaptation or specialized design, consistent with internationally recognized disability frameworks and existing Philippine accessibility laws. Universal design may include sensory-inclusive design approaches that accommodate differences in sensory processing, cognition, and regulation, particularly in settings intended for individuals on the autism spectrum. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Still in Section 3, definition of terms. This is from Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. On page 2, line 20, after the words Republic Act number 11650, insert the phrase, or the instituting a policy of inclusion and services for learners with disabilities in support of Inclusive Education Act. I so move, Mr. President.
All right. Yeah, no, the Secretariat and I were smiling because it's an anterior amendment, but
Oh,
it's okay.
I
There's no one.
apologize, Mr.
No one is
President.
objecting. So any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you for the, I see now the error and the correction. Thank you for the correction,
all right, no
Mr.
problem.
President and dear Secretariat. On the same page, line 21, apologies, also an anterior amendment to the previous. After the word support, insert the phrase, aids and the implementation of the child find system. So that section 3D shall now read as D. Inclusive education refers to the process of addressing and responding to the diversity of needs of all learners by ensuring full participation, presence, and achievement in learning environments, consistent with the Republic Act number 11650, or the Instituting a Policy of Inclusion and Services for Learners with Disabilities in Support of Inclusive Education Act, including the provision of reasonable accommodation and learning support aids and the implementation of the child find system. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. In Section 4, National Plan of Action for Autism Spectrum Disorder, and this is from Senators Joel Villanueva, Lauren Ligarda, and this representation. On page 2, line 25, after the word screening, comma, insert the word diagnosis, comma. On the same page and line, after the word timely, insert the phrase and evidence-based. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. On page 2, line 27, after appropriate social support for persons with ASD and their families, period, insert the following sentence. The plan shall provide for a baseline package of services accessible to persons with ASD and shall likewise provide a framework for needs-based service intensification, guided by objective criteria and rights-based safeguards to ensure equitable prioritization where service capacity is limited. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. On page 2, line 30, after the sentence ending with budgets of relevant government agencies and sectors, period, insert a new paragraph to read as follows. From this representation, facilities, programs, and services established or supported under this act shall be guided by accessibility and universal design principles, consistent with existing disability and accessibility laws, to promote inclusive and usable environments. Further, from Senator Lauren Ligarda, the plan shall include measurable targets and service capacity benchmarks for early detection, screening, diagnosis, and intervention services, including, as applicable, required geographic coverage, referral network standards, and time-bound access indicators such as maximum acceptable waiting periods from screening to assessment and initiation of intervention, with due consideration for geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas, GIDAS. The NCDA, in coordination with the DOH and concerned agencies, shall submit an annual implementation report to Congress detailing progress against these targets, service coverage gaps, and proposed corrective measures. I so move, Mr. President.
GIDAS will be in open and
Geographically
closed
isolated.
parentheses.
Yes, Mr. President, in
All
closed
right. Any
parentheses.
objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. In Section 5, Interagency and Multisectoral Coordination for Planning and Implementation. This is from Senator Pia Cayetano and this representation. On page 3, line 1, after the word with, insert, the Department of Health, in parentheses DOH, Department of Education, in parentheses DepEd, Commission on Higher Education, in parentheses CHED, Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, in parentheses TESDA, Department of Labor and Employment, in parentheses DOLE, Civil Service Commission, in parentheses CSC, Department of the Interior and Local Government, in parentheses DILG, Department of Social Welfare and Development, in parentheses DSWD, other. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the same page, line 2, after the abbreviation, in parentheses LGUs, add the words, and in consultation with relevant. I so move, Mr. President.
That means in consultation with relevant civil society organizations.
Yes, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first paragraph of Section 5 will now read as, the NCDA shall lead in the formulation of the National Plan of Action for Autism Spectrum Disorder in coordination with the Department of Health, DOH, Department of Education, DepEd, Commission on Higher Education, CHED, Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, TESDA, Department of Labor and Employment, DOLE, Civil Service Commission, CSC, Department of Interior and Local Government, DILG, Department of Social Welfare and Development, DSWD, other concerned national government agencies, local government units, LGUs, and in consultation with relevant civil society organizations, autism self-advocates, parents groups, and other stakeholders.
As adopted. All right.
Yes, Mr. President.
You may proceed.
Thank you. In Section 5, interagency and multisectoral coordination for planning and implementation. From this representation. On page 3, between lines 3 and 4, insert a new paragraph that reads as follows. The NCDA, in coordination with the DOH, shall strengthen collaboration with academic and research institutions, including the University of the Philippines National Institutes of Health, UPNIH, in parentheses, the Jose R. Reyes Memorial Medical Center, in parentheses JRRMMC, and the National Center for Mental Health, in parentheses NCMH, and professional organizations specializing in neurodevelopmental disorder to support autism research, surveillance, data collection, and evidence-based policymaking. Such collaboration shall include, but not be limited to, the establishment of research partnerships, data sharing mechanisms, and the integration of research findings into the plan. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. In Section 6, Early Detection, Screening, and Diagnosis, from Senator Sherwin Gatchalian and this representation. From this representation, on page 3, line 12, after the word protocols, insert comma and the phrase, including approaches that are gender responsive and attentive to sex-based differences in clinical presentation in order to reduce the risk of delayed or missed diagnosis among women and girls. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. From Senator Gatchalian, on the same page, line 14, after the word professionals, insert comma and the word specialists. Section 6 shall now read as Section 6, Early Detection, Screening, and Diagnosis. The Department of Health, DOH, shall integrate ASD detection and screening, referral, and diagnostic protocols, including approaches that are gender responsive and attentive to sex-based differences in clinical presentation, in order to reduce the risk of delayed or misdiagnosis among women and girls, into primary health care, maternal and child health programs, and other appropriate health services, and shall develop standards and shall develop standard clinical guidelines and training programs for healthcare professionals, specialists, and workers. I so move, Mr. President.
Editorial amendment, you
Yes,
you
Mr.
no longer need the comma after specialists, right?
Um,
Yes.
Grammarians debate that, Mr. President, but this
Spe-
representation,
specialists
of
and
course,
workers.
will submit.
All right. Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this point, Mr. President, I will cede the floor to Senator Joel Villanueva to read his proposed amendment.
Senator Villanueva is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you to our dear colleague who's been working double time for this very important measure, Mr. President. Mr. President, before I introduce this amendment in page 3, lines after line 14, Mr. President, may I just put into the records, Mr. President, as we have been talking extensively with the sponsor, with Senators Gatchalian, Senator Pia Cayetano, and the rest of our colleagues here. Mr. President, may we just put into the records of this August Chamber, how many, distinguished sponsor, if we have the numbers, how many development pediatricians do we have in the country? Because I have encountered, Mr. President, in one of the articles that we have got into, Mr. President, that there are only 109 development pediatricians in the country. And as I mentioned earlier, Mr. President, during the course of debates, Mr. President, this representation had experienced extremely difficult experience of looking for development pediatrician. And that's why this particular measure